You know that guy who just before the green flag keys up his mic and asks, "Anybody got a setup?" Well, this is him. This is Adam, and hey, Adam needs some help. On the other hand, this guy over here, this is Steve. Steve is a solid racer and he knows his way around the garage. Steve's problem is time. With a job and a family, he can't find enough time to build competitive setups and to race as often as he likes. But as luck would have it, Steve knows a secret. He lets the Majors Garage crew chiefs do the setup work so he can focus on the racing. At majorsgarage.com, Steve can get setups for over 60 cars on the iRacing service. So no matter what series he wants to jump into, he is covered. Somebody, anybody, really should tell Adam. See you at the garage.
Before multi-million-dollar contracts, before aero wars, and even before pavement, almost all racing was on dirt. Much like horse racing hasn't gone away, dirt racing carries on and upholds a rich tradition in motorsports. So of course the majors would need to have at least one round in homage to that. So let's get ready to watch the Majors World 100, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. I am Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Eldora is one of the biggest names in the dirt world. If you're not familiar with this circuit, let's head on down to our track guide.
Welcome to the world's greatest dirt track, Eldora Speedway. Located in Rossburg, Ohio, northwest of Dayton, Eldora opened in 1954 and has been one of the premier dirt tracks in the country ever since. The half-mile clay oval, now owned by Hall of Fame driver Tony Stewart, is the perfect track to learn the ropes in any dirt car. It's versatile in its ability to host great racing across the board, including the winged and non-winged sprint cars, modifieds, and all three late models. And Eldora features fast and sweeping corners, a slight bend down the back straight, mainly attributed to a rounded-off corner exit in turn 2. Now, like any good dirt track, the best drivers can adapt their style to many different lines depending on the track's condition at Eldora. Get a good run on the cushion, you'll be flying around the outside of the track. Be careful, don't jump the cushion in turn 1. That wall is unforgiving. Around the bottom of the track, turns 3 and 4 can be the more daunting corners, especially as the berm works its way down to the concrete wall. So who will join the likes of Stewart, Steve Kinser, Donnie Schatz, and Scott Bloomquist, the other legends of dirt racing who have claimed victory here at Eldora? Let's find out. Enjoy the show.
Well, this is definitely a track that elicits being one of the majors races here, Joey, as it hosts some of the biggest events here in North America on dirt.
It is going to be one heck of a show at Eldora Speedway today for the majors. Located in Rossburg, Ohio, one of the most famous dirt tracks in North America, half a mile long, and it does have a little bit of banking, 24 degrees, but with these Dirt Pro late models that we're going to be seeing here, you know, over 700 horsepower, lots of weight being thrown around. I think the big thing about this track map is it is going to be shifting. It's going to be moving. Where is the line going to develop? Where is the cushion going to be that the cars can really run that right rear up against it and gain that lap time?
Very dynamic style of racing compared to a lot of what we're used to here on this channel. Now, for the championship, of course, let's take a quick glance at how things are. Last time we brought this to you was during a non-point scoring round when we were at Le Mans. So it hasn't changed since then. But for those curious, Jeff Schmeier is still your points leader, and it's by the smallest of margins over Jesper Eriksson. You think about the percentage up to almost 1,000 points and only 20 points between them. That's minuscule. Blomqvist and Baker are kind of more traditionally the distance apart of what you would expect here, with Fredriksson very close to them in a nice battle for third in the championship. But with this being such a varied championship, this can change around depending on who is good at what style of racing over each week. That, of course, is the driver's standings. So what about the team's championship here, Joey?
Right now, it is SimRace Sweden Esports Pro leading the way, 234 points over that second-place team of Fusion Gold. Another Majors regular here in third place with Grizzly TFR, 575 points back. But they're actually locked into a very close battle with another Majors regular, Dog Bear Bite, sitting there in fourth place. UDOC Scooby, a little bit of a gap back to fifth place there. Easy Grass Yorkshire in sixth. Sapphire SimSport Atlantic 7th, Evolve SimSports Atlantic in 8th, and then Satellite Racing a little bit further back there, the 9th team involved in that standings.
Now, let's not forget about our sponsor, of course. Make sure and check out the Majors Garage, home of free Baseline Plus setups. Get help from any of the garage coaches 24/7. Sign up now for awesome, affordable monthly subscriptions, telemetry, coaching, and more by simply clicking on our link in the description below. Also, if you use our special discount code MajorsGSRC, you'll get 10% off. And every round, they also have a special charity for each race, and this one is Rise Above the Disorder. RAD is on a mission to make mental health care accessible to everyone, everywhere. For more information, check out our link in the description below. And a big thank you to the Majors for helping raise money towards Rise Above the Disorder. So for today's event details, real quick, why don't we go down what you can expect, since this one is a little bit unique here. Round 7 out of 11. And this is, of course, in the Dirt Pro late model. This is the one that's in the middle of the 3 different types of late models that you can drive here on iRacing. So we'll have heat races to try and set the feature grid. And they will have 15 laps in these heat races. Only the top 3 will advance into that feature. Those who don't advance go into the LCQ, last chance qualifier, and the winner of that should go on into the feature. Now, some of these numbers may shift around as we get drivers settling in, depending on how many sign up, and we're in the midst of qualifying right now to determine that. And the feature race itself going to be 100 laps, and they will have a spare car waiting for them if they need it. So definitely a lot of things in play. This is going to be so in flux, Joey, in more ways than one. And the first thing to try and settle is this qualifying.
I think the name of the game with dirt racing is track position. Your goal, make it into the feature. It's your typical bracket style, and if you don't make it into the feature off of your first heat, you do have a chance at that LCQ, but how things are structured, you really, really, really want to be in the top 3 in one of these heats to automatically advance yourself, because those LCQs, pretty sure you're going to have to go out there and win the thing. It's good to have a nice seat in the big show early on in the night.
31 cars right now are showing for this one. Ernie Ludwig is the only one still out on track, taking his qualifying. They have 3 laps, and unfortunately, it looks like he tapped the wall on his second 2 laps, so those did not count, and only sets a 16.090, so that puts him 28th. Now, remember, this does not set the grid for the feature. This is for the heats, and they will be splitting them up. And it is Sam Lawson who has the quickest time right now by actually almost about 1/10 of a second, and around a half-mile track. That's a pretty good margin.
I was just putting in here how fast this place is. Now, we're doing about 14-second, 15-second laps. If that sounds familiar, that's eerily similar to what the Cup cars do at Bristol on the high banks. That's how fast this place at Eldora really is.
Indeed, it's quite a bit banked compared to most dirt tracks. Usually you get them being a little bit flatter out here. Looks like time is ticking down, so we're about to head off to our first heat pretty soon. We'll get a sense of where exactly everybody is going to be positioned. So why don't we go through our starting grid for that first heat of the night. Sam Lawson on the pole position with Tom Freitas in second. You've got Edward Shelley starting in third, followed by Christopher Hibbs in fourth. Dennis Crosby will begin from P5. Jason Wallet joins us in sixth, and Drew Neubauer in the seventh spot, as Daniel Holmer will be eighth, Jeff Cardamo ninth, and Ernie Ludwig will round out your 10 cars here for this heat. Remember, only 15 laps, Joey. You talked about the track position being so important. 15 laps is precious little time if you're starting from the back of this field.
You got to make your moves quick. The one nice thing about dirt racing is those sliders. You can immediately throw it into the corner, hope that it sticks, and that's the key to dirt racing, is just kind of edging out the competitor, maybe getting that early jump on the inside line. Look at how green this racetrack is. That's another thing that the drivers might take advantage of early on, how different the racetrack drives right now versus how it's going to drive later in the race. Something else to mention, if we do have a yellow flag here, the yellow laps, they don't count here. So if we get 3 laps under green and then go yellow, well, it's going to stay at lap number 3. And then once we get back to racing, that's when the laps should continue.
Exactly, yeah. So that's going to be a big talking point, no doubt. And for those that don't follow the majors, remember, this is not a dirt series. They have a dirt race in it, but they switch from different cars to different tracks. So not everybody here is going to be a dirt regular, but they also allow people who don't necessarily race for the championship come in and compete. And this is where I'm expecting, Joey, we're going to see those dirt ringers.
I think so, and if you don't regularly practice on dirt, it's a little bit of a dance that you have to get used to. If you don't get your turn in right, well, guess what? The middle of the corner never approaches properly, and then you can never get the gas and the rhythm down, and just even getting the car that rhythm to turn in and get the yaw angle, it really is a dance that you have to practice.
Waiting for the pace truck to peel off and release Sam Lawson to start this one off. What are we going to see? Is this going to go clean from start to finish, or are we going to get things slowing down pretty quickly? Green flag is out, and we go racing for the first time in Heat 1 here for the World 100. Lawson gets a good launch. He's going to hold Freitas behind him, and way up high, Hibbs almost up into the wall. He's going to have to give up third.
I think Edward Shelley is finally able to clear those 2 cars behind him, and that's crucial because that's the transfer spot. Remember, 3rd place, the top 3 make it into the feature. Everybody else is going to have to go and do some more racing, and now Shelley actually has a car creeping up, the number 22. That's Dennis Crosby trying to get the nose down to the inside.
Crosby in the number 22 is on the outside looking in, and he poked his nose. Oh, and a little bit high once again for Shelley coming off of turn 2. He'll cut it back down. He'll hold on to that valuable 3rd place position. Christopher Hibbs also trying to recover from his poor start. He's threatening on Crosby as we hop on board with him.
With the new track, I expect the low lane to be the fastest, and then slowly it will start to migrate up and the track will start to blue groove out, and we will get a cushion. But while everything is new and slick, I expect the bottom to be fast.
It definitely looks like that right now. Everybody trying to stay all the way to the low side, but like you said, it's going to slowly evolve, and already I'm seeing the racing line dry up a little bit. No blue groove yet, but watch out for it as it'll happen quick. Christopher Hibbs still sitting in that 5th position behind Crosby, who's now getting ever closer to the number 1 of Ed Shelley. In fact, a little bit of a look down to the inside by Chris in the number 25, but no dice.
It was Dennis Crosby that drifted up a little bit wide in 3 and 4. I think the cars are starting to kind of migrate, try to find a different line, because if you just follow in the tire tracks of the car in front, it's so difficult to get that run. And now Shelley was a little bit wide exiting 4, but the 22 still can't capitalize.
Phrase we hear a lot in this style of racing, Joey, is you got to go where they're not. And yeah, you make a good point about trying to experiment, poke and prod in other places is very close to the outside wall. In fact, it sounded like that Hibbs maybe have actually smacked it.
We're starting to see the line develop a little bit more into turn 1. You can kind of see it going into turn 3 there, but the arc going into turn 1, you can definitely see a cushion starting to form on entry, and drivers are going to use that right rear tire, push it all the way up against that cushion and kind of use it to drive forward.
A little high up though into the dirty stuff for Hibbs. You want to kind of ride the edge of it, not be fully in it. That looked a little bit better from him that time as we watch Crosby now still been stuck behind Shelley. Ahead of it all, Lawson is running away big time for what it's worth. The heat win doesn't mean anything other than a bit of pride in this situation. We're going to watch from Crosby's onboard to see if he can get any nearer to that number 1.
You know what? Tip the cap to Edward Shelley because he's actually the fastest car on the racetrack doing 14.9s. Nobody else is in the 15s, only a few laps remaining, and he's actually threatening to try to take second away from that 252 of Thomas Freitas, and that might open the door for the 22 of Dennis Crosby here in the remaining couple of laps.
2 laps to go now as Lawson is already way up the road. Freitas and Shelley, how hard do they fight for this one, knowing that they are through? Because Shelley probably wants a little bit more of a safety net here, but he also doesn't want to make himself vulnerable.
No, and you can always use that extra track position, but our leader, Samuel Lawson, already on the back straightaway, just 2 more turns, and he'll collect the first heat win.
254 started this one on pole. He's going to finish it in the same spot as he wins the heat. It's going to be Freitas and Shelley through in second and third, as Crosby will now have to go to the pole of our LCQ a little bit later. At least he's got that going for him. So our results should be ready to go. And like we said, Lawson, Freitas, Shelley, your top 3. And then for the rest of them, it's going to be Hibbs, Holmer, Wallet, Neubauer, Cardamone, and Ludwig. They will advance to the, well, will not advance. They will head to the LCQ to try and make their way into the big show on this one, which means it's time for our second heat race. And we've got Cody R. Buck on the top for this one. He is going to be followed by Jeff Schmeier beside him for the start of this race. It's going to be Adam Gowdy who will be in that number 9 machine starting from 3rd position. Mike Golightly will begin in P4. After that, it is going to be Melvin Atkinson in 5th. Drew Prohl will start in P6, and Rob Courtney will be in 7th. Daniel Blomqvist starts 8th, Gary Thomas 9th, and Michael Hogg in 10th. Now here's where it gets interesting, Joey. They have not refreshed the track. They won't refresh the track here during these heat races. So these drivers are coming on with a track that is now different from what they qualified in.
It is a little bit different, but guess what? It's the same for every single driver out there. It's not like it's only different for you. I wouldn't think it's going to be too big of an issue. I think the drivers that can adapt quicker will have a little bit more success, but from what we saw in heat number 1, track position is so key. Those top 3, they didn't change any sort of positions. Let's see if that's going to be a different story here in heat number 2.
You have to wonder if anybody maybe just didn't get the qualifying time that they felt that they could get. We saw at least one driver with a couple laps deleted from tapping the outside wall. You're not allowed to touch the wall or else your lap gets deleted. And this time they go immediately with the pace truck in. Cody Buck is off like a shot, and now Jeff Schmeier is left to chase round the outside looking for 3rd. I think that is number 43 of Go Lightly with a big moment for Gowdy down on the bottom.
Yeah, now we're 3 wide in turn number 3, the 959 on the bottom, the 9 in the middle, and that's Go Lightly up top. He's trying to hang on to it with the momentum through turn 1 and 2, and he will take 3rd place.
Prohl actually using that high side pretty good himself. In fact, he's going all the way up to the wall trying to carry the speed. He's going to see if he can get past that 4th place car, but no, nothing doing on Gowdy this time as they complete lap 2.
This heat is definitely a little bit busier out here. Oh, and we've got our first yellow flag of the day. I believe Rob Courtney in the 64 is no longer moving. And so we will slow everything down, take a look at exactly what happened, and refire them all again.
I think you got a piece of the outside wall and then tried to park it, but unfortunately couldn't put it in a safe spot. So that is going to bring out, like you said, the first yellow of the day, which is, I'd say, a pretty good sign that we went through that first entire heat without a single yellow. And we got a few laps into this one, so it wasn't a case of drivers tripping over each other.
You know, not everybody can see it behind the scenes in their chat. I said this is a fantastic way to start off the race. No yellows in that first heat, and knock on some wood over here that this is just our first yellow of the evening. It's not always easy to drive these dirt cars. Now, the late models, they're a little bit more forgiving than the sprint cars, but if you don't put in the practice time, it can easily get too much angle. It can easily get out of rhythm on the straightaways. So, yeah, I think yellow flag's definitely part of dirt racing.
This is going to start out of 3 and 4, I believe. as the 64 gets a little bit high, smacks the wall pretty decently hard. And I guess it must have been maybe a little bit too damaged from that. Usually these are pretty robust cars, but he brought it down to the inside, and once it hit that inside wall, you could see he took a tow as quick as he could.
I think the cars are lining up to get going on a restart side by side. Yep, lights are out, so here they are on the back straightaway, getting ready for our first restart of the day.
Remember, this will restart on lap 4. Currently running lap 3, so we will at least get 1 lap on each caution. But from there, they don't want it to obviously go yellow much more than this. Cody Buck is going to take off once again. This time, look at Jeff Schmeier with a nice little run around the outside. He's going to sneak into P2, up into the wall hard. That's going to be Gowdy. Gets it turned around. No caution. There it is. Caution is, in fact, out. He's trying to get the car going. It looks like it might be able to continue, and he's kind of feeling it out. Oh, nope, he's bringing it in.
I'd expect him to come in. I believe they have a fast repair here that he can go ahead and take that and get back going out onto the racetrack. But this incident is almost eerily similar to the one that we just saw. I have mentioned the rhythm a couple times. I've referred to it as a dance. Now, if you don't get the rhythm on the straightaway, you never get the turn-in, the weight transfer proper on the entry of the corner. And I think that's what happened to the number 9, as he just actually got into the wall in the middle of the straightaway, broke up that rhythm, and actually couldn't get the car turned in, and then more wall action.
So sadly, did not get to complete a full lap on that one. So we're going to take a look at Adam. And once again, car gets a little high, and just on the corner exit, once that right rear smacked, it just turned the thing straight into the outside wall.
Unfortunate, but I don't think it's going to be the last time we see it. If you're into the wall on the straightaway, I mentioned it's just so difficult to really get that weight transfer and get the car turned back in here. But we are working heat number 2, and because we have almost 30 competitors signed up here, we're going to be running 3 heats of about 10 cars each, and like we showed in those race details, 3 each are going to be advancing to the feature. And the lights are out. We're going to be going green this time by.
Indeed. So 2 cautions in quick succession on this one. Will we get a third? Is this going to be a hat trick, or is this going to go to the end as the pace truck gets ready to release Cody Buck, who's pretty good on these restarts? And he's good once again. He's going to get the whole shot as Jeff Schmeier tries to lock in that P2 behind him. Drew Prohl gets a very good run, moves himself into an advancing position in third ahead of Go Lightly.
You had called out Drew Prohl earlier using that high line, and that's exactly what he did. He just drove around the outside of Golightly, and in fact, if you look at that number 27, he does not have any sort of yaw angle whatsoever. He's just driving it way up top on the racetrack. It is hooked up. He's going to take away second.
Yeah, Schmeier struggling on the bottom side a little bit now. Looks like the high line is starting to become the place to be. Can Prohl do even one more and take this away from Cody Buck? I'd say he's actually closing in a little bit on him.
And just look at the attitude of the car. Everybody else is so sliding, right? The rear is really hanging out, but the attitude of that red and black number 27 up front, it is very straight. It has minimal yaw angle. It's just hooked up.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of dirt drivers say, even though it is a bit of a sideways style of racing, the less you slide, the faster you're going to go. But the trick is trying to get the car to do that on a dirt surface. Is Prohl not catching up as much as I thought before, and behind him, Schmeier is still trying to see if he can make that bottom side work. Doesn't seem to want to try and venture up like the others have.
We're already clicking over to 2/3 the way through heat number 2, side by side a little bit further back. I believe this is Atkinson and Golightly here coming up out of turn number 4. The 959 slides up wide and include the number 9. Remember, Adam Gowdy, he was the one in the wall a little bit. He's trying to make a redemption drive.
Atkinson hailing from Club Scandinavia. You might think I wouldn't expect Europeans to be good at this, but frankly, any Northern Europeans, I feel like they would just take to this like a duck to water.
Oh, and the 43 of Golightly slides up wide at 1 and 2. Thankfully, Gowdy was able to clear him on the outside. And Joe, I agree. I think you put any of those rally car drivers in the snow, it doesn't matter if it's the dirt either, they're going to go fast.
Still a battle for P2. Schmeier and Prohl, they got to keep this one clean. They're in the advancing positions. So yes, they'd like a higher spot to put them in a better grid position for the feature, but you don't want to risk things. You don't want to get tangled up with your rival. 2 laps to go. Big smack of the wall for Jeff Schmeier down the backstretch, and that sends him way to the outside. He gathers it together, is up ahead of them. Cody Buck takes the white flag. He's trying to get underneath the lap traffic. He'll be able to easily do so. Now down to 3 and 4. Cody Buck, it's going to be a back-to-back win for our pole sitters as the 29 takes victory in Heat 2.
And Schmeier actually made a last lap pass to get himself into second. Drew Prohl will be that third car that advances into the feature.
Man, he finally moved to that high side and he suddenly took off like a rocket ship. So that worked out beautifully for him. And so, yes, our race sees Cody Buck, our winner, with the likes of Jeff Schmeier in second and Drew Prohl in third. Those are your 3 advancing cars. Atkinson is going to go on to the LCQ from 4th with Gowdy, Golightly, Blomqvist, Courtney, Thomas, and Hogg heading off to the LCQ as well. Only 3 heats for today, so this will be the last of our heat races, and it is going to see Doug Betts on the pole position. You've got Garen Batten starting from P2 in the number 61, with Ray Partridge starting in P3. After that, it is Oscar Fredrickson in 4th with Lynn Kinchlow starting in P5. Travis Anderson will be P6 with Jesper Eriksson in 7th and Josh Hampton in 8th. Mark Rediker and Craig Hawkins round out your 10 cars.
So we had an all-green heat number 1. We had a couple yellow flags in heat number 2, and I think we saw a lot more racing in heat number 2 as well. I'm curious what this group is going to do, if it's going to be a relatively calm, cool, collected heat number 3, or if we're going to be getting those 2 and potentially even 3 wides that we saw just a couple minutes ago.
So a theory on that, I think you saw the top split be the guys that, they've got the qualifying down. They're consistent, they can lay the laps down. I think you're seeing these second and third splits where maybe you've got a few drivers who, like I said, just didn't get the qualifying lap that they know they could do. So they have the pace, they just kind of flubbed it a little bit.
It could be possible, and it's all going to be up to Doug Betts in that number 3 car to set us to the green flag.
Indeed, and definitely backing it up quite a bit. He's letting that pace truck get way far ahead, and that allows him to launch from far back in almost turn 3 there. Green flag is out. Doug Betts is up ahead. It's a battle for 2 and 3 as Batten, Fredrickson, Henderson all struggling to try and decide it.
Keep an eye on that 24. He's on the top side. Remember how much speed we've seen up there, but the 955 of Fredrickson. Now we've got contact. 2 cars almost spinning into turn number 1. I believe that was Hawkins and Partridge.
Yeah, Partridge almost went sent around, but he gathers it up. He's going to keep it going, but now he's at the very back of the field. He needs a caution, something fierce, because he is many seconds back.
The 24 keeps poking the nose down low, and now the 37 is actually going to take advantage. Eriksson up into the transfer spot. The 955 of Fredrickson falling way back on the low line.
I think Fredrickson got a little bit of help off of turn 2, and it almost got turned around, so that's sends him down into 6th position as Kinchlow just managed to get by. This is him still battling on the bottom side. Kinch on the high side, right in the rim.
And now the 61 is back, way out of shape. He falls down to the 3rd place position. So move Jesper Eriksson up into 2nd, and now Batten falls down to 4th. He's out of the transfer spot.
Oh, in fact, he hit the wall hard enough that the car looks like it is coming to a crawl. He's going to try and cross the track and head in. Nope, he can't. He is not able to get it down into the pit lane. And so he's going to pull it off, hoping that he won't cause a caution.
You know what, though? That is a sign of a competitor that doesn't want to ruin anybody's races. He saw people on the racetrack. He did not cut in front of them. He's trying to stay out of the way. Tip of the cap.
and 3 wheels on his wagon. We saw one of the tires go rolling off the car. Thankfully, this is not real life where they would absolutely yellow flag the race so that they could go pick that one up. But it disappears and no cars have to worry about hitting it. In the meantime, Betts leads Ericsson and Henderson in a fierce fight for P2.
And this is that same situation that it's a fight for second, and we've got a yellow flag now. I wonder who caused that. Is that Garrett's back?
It is. So this is one of the quirks of this track, unfortunately, that pit entry. It's not made for green flag pit stops. So the car has to go so slow to get in there that it almost comes to a stop to get in, and that can often cause the yellow flag.
And the reason why they do that is you'll see the car down so low, pretty much on the racing line. This was the incident. Now, look, he just gets up high and into the wall, smacks the wall with the right rear, and then it really brings the front right into the concrete wall as well. He starts bending those steering arms. That's no good. When the entire front right corner is off the car, that's even worse.
Generally not a good thing for the right side of these cars to be in any sort of missing condition. But, one thing that we got a good look at there is a bit of a unique quirk about this track that isn't highlighted all that much. That back straight isn't straight. It's more of a curve. And this is what actually brought out the yellow, I think, when we'll see him try and come into pit lane here.
The only reason you'll see it's a hard left right here, so you have to almost come to a stop. Just that right there causes the yellow flag. Now, we know that he was off the racing line. We know that he was in a safe position, but that's not how it works when it comes to the X's and O's and how the racetrack is drawn.
Exactly. The iRacing marshals are all looking at what is the bare facts of it, not what is the context of that situation. Now, we already double foul? Yes, indeed, we are. So we're going to get racing once again. The one thing I wish that they had in this series, because they don't do live stewards as much to hand out penalties, is in the real world. If you cause more than one caution at most racetracks on the dirt side, you'll get pointed off the track. They'll have one of the workers on the inside let you know you're done. You've caused 2 cautions, and that's it for today. These guys get to carry on. And so will Doug Betts as he takes the green flag. Now, Ericsson and Henderson, not fighting for second place now because look at this. Lynn Kenchlow now suddenly all on the inside of the 24.
He's that purple and blue number 44 right in the middle of the racetrack, but it was a nice defense from Henderson. He didn't move. He didn't waver off of his line. He stuck to it, and now we're really seeing that track involvement. All of the cars were running down low. Look at where they're running now.
Already hitting lap 12 of this race, despite the caution slowing it up for a bit. Betts trying to keep himself as clear as possible. Henderson, once again, approaching Ericsson in that bright green number 37, seeing what he can do to make this a race for that P2. He gets within a car length, tries a little bit of a lower line down to the inside, doesn't quite work this time.
You'll usually see that middle groove not pay off in dirt racing when the track starts to migrate to this top lane. We refer to them as sliders, right? You get up right behind somebody and you throw the car all the way down to the inside, slide it way up to the track, and hopefully it sticks.
Yeah, they have to try and blunt the momentum of that car ahead. We'll call it out when we see it, but haven't really gotten many of them quite yet. Meanwhile, 1 lap to go. Betts still ahead. Ericsson and Henderson still trying to sort out who's going to get P2, but it is looking like those 3 easily advancing on into the feature as Doug Betts wins Heat 3, Ericsson in second, and Henderson finishing up your podium.
A little bit of a combination between the first 2 heats as we get the results up on the screen. A little bit of action. I think the 61 is more action after the checkered flag.
Yeah, exactly. And let's go through our results. Doug Betts, your winner. Ericsson and Henderson advancing through, being in the top 3. Then you've got Lynn Kenchlow in 4th, who's going to head off to the LCQ, along with Fredrickson, Partridge, Hampton, Redeker, Hawkins, and Batten. Had 2 cars off the lead lap on that one. Haven't seen that a lot so far. So that heads into 2 LCQs, it looks like, that we're going to have for this one to try and determine who goes to the feature. And interestingly, it's much more than we initially anticipated. It is going to be 6 advancing in each of these LCQs. So Dennis Crosby is going to be starting on the pole, with Lynn Kinchlow starting in second. After that, you've got Adam Gowdy in third and Daniel Holmer in fourth. Ray Partridge fifth, Daniel Bloomquist sixth, and Drew Neubauer in seventh. Mark Redeker will begin from P8. After that, in the last row, it's going to be Gary Thomas and Ernie Ludwig. So you talked about track position before, and we've got a bit of a longer race at 20 laps this time, Joey. So what do you do here? What is your goal, both for the front starters and the back starters here? I mean, at the end of the day, you don't want this to be the end of the day for you. So you've got to be in those top six.
When we came in here, it was a very, very narrow window to advance into the main from the LCQ. And just because of how it's structured and the cars that are entered, it is now kind of blown open. And with that being said, I think you need to be conservative here. We've only got 10 cars on the racetrack. 6 of those 10 will advance into the future. So in my mind, just don't be last. Don't wreck the car. And as long as you're in the main group, you should advance. If you're sitting there in 7th, 8th spot, then you should worry a little bit. You might need to be a little bit more aggressive, but when I think 6 of the 10 advance, just make sure you're in the main group.
Got a literal 60% chance on this one. So, yeah, I agree. It's don't make waves if you're in an advancing position. Just keep it steady. Make sure you get to the big race, as only about 2/3 of the field will be able to contest the main one for the final points. As the green flag is out for our first LCQ, Dennis Crosby gets a good shot on that one. Lynn Kinchlow going to follow him into P2 as Adam Gowdy sitting in third. Last one to advance right now is Ray Partridge there in the blue and green.
And he's actually got a nice little healthy gap between himself and Mark Redeker in the 462. So as long as these drivers keep green flag action on the racetrack, they might actually be able to gap it out, and these front 6 might just advance to the feature.
They look pretty calm right now. It's all single file up at the top, as everybody knows that they're in a good position. It's those back from 7th on down that need to play catch-up. Redeker, Ludwig, Thomas, and Neubauer. They're not showing as having the pace. You just never know. If they get a caution, that could bring them back into it.
This is the caboose, the last car on the train, the number 7 of Drew Neubauer. He's trying to pass Gary Thomas, and the reason why we're kind of covering this back here is that if there's any sort of incident, even if it's wrecking for last place, that can bring out a yellow flag and restack them all.
Redeker running the high side here a little bit and seeing if whether or not he could take Ludwig, but it's not quite working at this stage. They're still pretty single file in a line. Checking out Blomqvist now in 5th position. Ray Partridge is getting a little bit closer, and though they are pretty safe, I'm sure Ray would like to at least make it up, because like I said, Joey, this changes your starting position in the future if you gain a spot.
And it's also good practice. I said be conservative, right? That means that you can go up there and race. Just don't wreck, don't cause an incident, don't bring out a yellow flag. But this is 20 laps of practice before you get into the 100-lap feature, if you make it there. So, yeah, take some notes and start getting used to being in the rhythm.
Now, Joey, you were mentioning the blue groove earlier as well. We're starting to see a little bit on the entry into the corners, and it's going to seem very sort of antithetical to a lot of our viewers who come from the paved side. They're putting rubber down, you know. You would think that would mean more grip, right?
You would think so, but these tires, they're made so differently. The suspensions, they're set up so differently in the platform and how these cars drive. And when we say the blue groove, that means it's completely washed away all the dirt. We've been seeing the track start to change, but trust me, you will see an area that will start to become shiny, and that is that pavement and the rubber being put down that's polishing the surface.
Exactly. As Crosby continues to lead, he's got about a second now over Lynn Kinchlow. Nobody really doing anything too out of order here up at the front. Oh, we got a caution as somebody is stopped on track. That was Gary Thomas, who was in 3 and 4, and actually the leaders nearly hit him.
How many times have I heard wrecking for last place brings out the caution flag, and that's exactly what happened here. The number 19 just trying to enter pit lane brings out that yellow flag, so we're gonna essentially hit pause on the race and restack it all.
Not sure what happened to Gary here, but like I said, just was kind of right in the racing line, if anything. And I think there was some contact in the wall that put him in that position. Thankfully, nobody else really seemed to have a wreck because of that, although it was close. Let's watch and see. Ooh, he was in a very good fight with the 7 initially, Joey, so I wonder if it came from the two of them tussling a little too hard here.
It happens on the back straightaway right here. Just gets up a little high. Boom! Smacks the right rear into the wall, and I think it was Garen Batten that we saw earlier. When you get that front right into the wall, and that's what you were talking about. He just parked it right in the middle of the racetrack as the leaders came by. Thankfully, none of them impacted that car.
Crosby's heart probably just about beat out of his chest right there. He had to go very slow and all the way down to the bottom to try and avoid that car. Again, they do have the spare car in each of these races. They get one per race. So we'll see them get back out there. And I think Thomas is already back out on track. As let's watch from Kinchlow's view. He's going to go up to the high side. And again, that was almost a little bit more luck than anything.
Well, you know, that view made it look a lot worse as we get back going. Green flag action on the track. Dennis Crosby restarts. Lynn Kinchlow there giving chase. They actually got a huge hole shot over Adam Gowdy in the number 9. Then a little bit of a gap back to 4th, 5th, 6th as they're all stacked up.
Ludwig is the one that's loving this caution because he's now much closer to Partridge, still in that last advancing position. He's going to try to hang on to him a little better than he did the first time because they dropped them early.
They dropped him by quite a bit. It was almost like 3.5 seconds before we got that yellow flag. So we're going to see if the pace difference is going to be any different after that restart. And I'm already seeing the number 26 start to fall off the back just a touch.
He's struggling, unfortunately. And we have to remember, this is open setup. This is, I mean, already oval racing, it requires such a unique experience for a lot of drivers trying to accustom themselves to that. But then trying to set up the car, I've heard even dirt drivers say that can be a bit of a mystery sometimes.
It is, and you know, apples and oranges don't always transfer over directly into the digital world, into the virtual world. So if you're a dirt guy and you say, hey, this works on my car, it might not always be the exact same adjustment here in the sim. So it is a little bit of a fine-tuned guessing game, if you will. A lot of practice, a lot of laps, and a lot of button pushing.
And now that was very cool. That was the actual VR perspective of Lynn Kinchlow in second place. Hence why we saw the mud actually hitting the visor on the car. That's something that iRacing does simulate in here. Is you have to map a button to the tear-offs because your visor will get muddy.
Unless you want to be constantly crunching on all of that dirt, yes, a visor tear-off button is very helpful. Sometimes you need to see where you're racing. As Dennis Crosby, I believe, comes around, makes it 2 laps to go as his battle for 3rd place. Daniel Homer chasing the number 9 car of Gowdy.
This one's starting to go quickly now that we've gotten back to this green flag racing. 1.5 seconds up to the leader as he comes down to the white flag. Dennis Crosby with just a couple more turns, and he is not only through into the feature, he is your winner here in LCQ1. Nice recovery from the 22. Kinchlow second. Gowdy going to round out your podium, but who is our last advancing cars? It's Homer, Blomqvist, and Partridge.
Unfortunately, the 4 that will not be advancing: Neubauer, Ludwig, Redeker, and Thomas.
Real shame for the last of them because this is it for them. That there is no more racing for them for the rest of the night. They get to go up into the stands and watch from here. So your results is Crosby, Kinchlow, Gowdy, Homer, Blomqvist, Partridge, and then, as we said, the 4 that you will not see anymore: Neubauer, Ludwig, Redeker, and Thomas. All right, we got one more of our LCQs. It's the B main for Melvin Atkinson on the pole and Christopher Hibbs in second. Oscar Fredrickson will be starting from P3 as Mike Golightly will be 4th and Jason Wallet 5th. Then it's Josh Hampton in 6th position, Rob Courtney in 7th, and Jeff Cardamone 8th. After that, it's Craig Hawkins P9, Michael Hogg 10th, and Garen Batten making an 11-car field this time around to try and decide, but it is still only 6 who will advance into the feature race. And one thing I do like that they've done for this event, to mimic the real thing, what you get with short track racing, all the heats and whatnot, they're still, late in the afternoon when the sun is starting to get a little bit lower. And now that we're getting close to the feature, the sun is setting. We're going to get the lights turning on for the big show soon.
That is so neat, and I only wish they still had the pyrotechnics here in iRacing, that we could get maybe some fireworks going off on the front straightaway. I don't know, do they just do them on the checkered flag, or they do them on the green flag as well?
I'm not sure. It's been a minute since I've been on a dirt race, so I'll have to... We'll have to see.
We're about to find out because, I guess it'll probably be the main that they'll really light them up. Anyways, back to racing. The lights are going out on the pace car, or pace truck, I should say. One more lap till we get going green. 11 cars in this one, like we heard Joe say, but this is your last chance to make it into the feature. Kind of like Squid Games right now. If you don't make it in, you're booted out.
Thankfully, with a little bit less on the line here. But Atkinson going to be starting from the top spot. What can he do from here? Can he take this win? Again, this doesn't mean anything if you take the win in the LCQ. It is just bragging rights, but it does give you the best possible starting position. Ooh, a little bit of contact between Atkinson and Hibbs there at the very start of this race. They're going to get away with it, though, but that caught Hibbs out. He's a little bit farther back than he wanted as Fredrickson took a look, but he doesn't pass him.
And here comes the 43. Nice run on the high side of the back straightaway. Takes away third place, but it is all in that 6th place transfer position right now because the front 5 relatively calm. Then it gets really busy back here in 7th and 8th.
Wonder if Hibbs didn't like that little bit of touch because he got very close to Atkinson once again. We'll see if he can keep that up and try to challenge once more. Back in the transfer spots, it is Hampton who is trying to hold off Courtney, Batten, and Cardamone.
And I was just putting in here, the 61 really needs this race. Remember, he was running up front in his heat and then had damage, is now forced to be in the LCQ. This is the last chance for Garen Batten to make it into the feature.
He's got to pass 2 cars to make that happen. The good news is he's still got about 16, 17 laps to go here before that opportunity is over. Got a nice little fight to try and decide a podium finish as Golightly versus Fredrickson. Flashing past the flag stand goes by.
Let's see, they're starting to run a little bit more in the middle of the racetrack, and typically we see that out of the driver, just trying to get a little bit of clean vision, see where it's going on. And there was that sun really, really low in the grandstand off of turn 4, affecting the driver's vision.
Yeah, that's going to be difficult, especially if you've got HDR on. And here we go. We've got through onto the front stretch once again. Fredrickson getting definitely a good visual of it in his 955 machine, but still unable to get past that number 43. We get a caution now to slow things down, and it is Michael Hogg in 3 and 4 facing the wrong way.
Unfortunately, the 744 having a little bit of an issue here. I know that he was putting in the chat early on in practice that he was still getting used to this dirt late model pro version, and I think it just kind of caught him out a little bit. But this does help out that number 61 car I was mentioning, Garen Batten. He couldn't get around Rob Courtney directly in front of him, so maybe getting another restart will provide him an opportunity.
Yeah, Courtney is going to be appreciating this, especially considering he should be restarting on the inside, which might help him on the initial start if he can manage to get that track position. So here is the 744. Around she goes and just came to a halt at the bottom of the track. Thankfully, nobody down at the bottom at this stage, and it was a simple caution.
Well, it's convenient because we're coming up to halfway in the final LCQ here. It's nice for the drivers to kind of take a little bit of a breath. Sure, the guys in the front 4 or front 5 probably didn't want to see the yellow flag. They had a nice rhythm going and there wasn't too much racing, but everybody in that, call it 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, this is exactly what they needed. There was a little bit of a gap between the 6th and 7th place car. Now that's all going to be evaporated, and it's going to be a time to pounce.
I do want to correct myself a little bit. One thing that I had forgotten about, and I was reminded of, thank you, Mike, that this is not the end of the road for those that aren't able to get to this feature. They will go to the Split 2 feature if you are eliminated in these LCQs. So these drivers do have more racing, but not in this session. So if you want to see your favorite driver, head on over to Radeon, as they'll have coverage over there. Now, green flag is back out, and a big dip to the bottom there. I think that is Go Lightly, who's going to try and see if he can sneak underneath Fredrickson. No dice for him. Battle for the transfer positions, though. Batten trying to go low, see if he can move into 5th past Wallet.
I think he might have gotten up into 6th because he passed the 89 of Joshua Hampton. So the number 61 car, that black and green car, is officially in the transfer spot.
Hampton's not going to be happy about this one. Half the race to try and get that one back. Behind them, it is Courtney and Cardamone also giving watching back. Courtney going to go to the bottom side to see what will stick there, as up in front of them, Fredrickson, and the 43's in the wall. Go Lightly has unfortunately got too much damage and is up and trailing along the outside.
We've seen several cars, when they hit the wall, they kind of get sucked in, and that front right can cause huge amounts of damage. Extremely unfortunate for Michael Lightly, as now the 314 dives down to the inside. I believe that's Joshua Hampton fighting it out with Jeff Cardamone. This is all for potentially now that transfer spot.
Oh, man, Go Lightly is trying to find his way into the pits. Let's see if we get the caution. Oh, yep, there it is. He tried his best to keep the speed up, but the car bounced into the barrels, it looks like. So that brought out the yellow. But, I mean, for Go Lightly, that's pretty much it. It'd be highly unlikely he'll be able to move his way back up into the top 6 here.
And so unfortunate. So here he is on the high side, the black and orange, and he's just going to make wall contact right off of turn 2 or in the middle of the back straightaway, whatever you want to call it. You make that right rear contact. Oftentimes the pendulum motion brings the right front into the wall, and we've seen it all day long. It gets heavy damage from there.
Yep. From what I've seen in the past in these late model cars, you want to just glance that outside. You don't want to hit it, because it can help turn the car a little bit and help you through the corner. But as soon as you make significant contact, like you said, it's too difficult. And yeah, you could tell he was trying, and he has that spare car, so that won't mean too much for him smacking into the barrels. But he didn't want to cause the yellow. It just wound up being inevitable anyways.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that he should be getting back out there. I don't see him on the racetrack currently, but if he uses that spare car, he should be able to at least go out there and finish this race for sure.
One thing I love about SimRacing is the way this does bring such a global audience to this style of racing, to the fact that we do have Radeon TV over there doing Split 2 later, and we'll have an Irishman and a Brit calling a half-mile dirt oval.
What did you just say?
An Irishman. Got that OI. It's not just IRI. It's OIR.
I see. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I will have to work on that one, because I have not perfected that one yet. So I'll have to take some notes down.
I'm curious how much Rob is going to be yelling at me for that. Looks like we're going to do a single file start here, as we got the green flag. Yeah, sorry to interrupt. We're back racing. Atkinson leading Hibbs and Fredrickson. Down to the bottom, it is a battle for P4 between Wallet and Batten. Wallet will come out with that 4th.
And remember, only a handful of laps remaining here, so that 6th place, what we're watching, the number 64 car on the top holds the 6th place, but now he's getting challenged. I believe that's Jeff Cardamone trying to slide it to the inside of the 314. The race is on.
Looks like he's not able to get that. Cardamone going to still try the bottom side. You can see how evenly the track has been dried out from top to bottom now. So now we're getting a bit of that experimentation, since it's not completely slicked in fully yet. Christopher Hibbs is putting a threat on Atkinson, but him doing that now allows Fredrickson to try and challenge.
I think the fastest cars are going to migrate to the fastest part of the racetrack, all the way up top to the cushion. And here you see the race for the lead. This is what we're going to be seeing out of the feature. But the Hibbs car, the 25, trying to carry that momentum on the top.
There's the slide job, cutting back underneath. Atkinson was wise to it. Oh, but he doesn't get the launch off the corner. He is going to be side by side, and him being on the bottom. Looks like Christopher Hibbs will make that work.
An excellent move, using the cushion all the way up top. I feel like that's where the speed is at Eldora, and now that the track is finally developed, you need to be up at the top. A little bit of contact, okay, not hard contact into the wall.
Yeah, that slide job maneuver, you can see it both attack and defense work with it. The car can try and cut back underneath if you're the one defending and get it right back. Here is Wallet once again battling for position as the last lap goes to Christopher Hibbs with a late race move to win LCQ2. Atkinson second, and Fredrickson rounding out your podium. Wallet will hold fourth, Batten behind him in fifth, and Rob Courtney going to be the last one in our main feature.
And tip of the cap to Rob Courtney. He held off 3 cars there to find that final transfer position.
Great job by the 64. Defense is not easy sometimes here on the dirt side. Here are your race results. And Hibbs, your winner with Atkinson behind him. Fredrickson finishing in P3. Then it's Wallet in fourth and Batten P5. Courtney, Hampton, Hawkins, Lightly, Cardamone, and Hogg rounding out your 11 cars. We finally get a bit of a breather now as we have a warm-up session between now and the race itself. And this is actually pretty important. This is not just for everybody to go get snacks in the virtual stands, Joey. They now are given an opportunity for the drivers who haven't been on track for a while to get out there and test and see what the track is racing like, because it's completely different from what it was in heat number 1.
And if you're saying, well, Joe, you're crazy. We've had racing the whole time, but you're right. What if you were in heat number 1? You won the first heat, and then you're just sitting on the sidelines this whole time. You're completely cold. You haven't been able to do any practice. The only thing that you might be able to do here in the sim is maybe have a test session up that you can go and do, but I wouldn't want to exit the race session just to potentially not get back in. Go out there, use this 5-minute warm-up, get back into the groove of things, and as you can see, the track hasn't changed too much. It's not just a completely new track. It still looks like it's got that high groove, the cushion worked in.
Exactly. 21 cars going to be racing for this one. So this will be a bigger field, and you can see that things have cooled down, but the track surface is pretty similar temperatures. It is a bit different from pavement in that you're mostly wondering how quickly the moisture will go out of the track, because that will kind of determine some of the tackiness of it. But yeah, this is going to be a fun one to witness, because this changes up everything. It's a much longer race. It's a much different track. It's much more cars. So flip everything on its head, Joey. Everybody's got to be ready to go for expecting the unexpected.
And these static shots that we were just getting, it showed the development in the track very, very nicely, because you saw the cushion up top. You can see the blue groove entering the corner. You can see how slick it is down low with just kind of the wet dirt that's still down there. And I think with 100 laps, you're going to need to be up top. You're going to need to be comfortable with that cushion, because that's where all of the speed is.
Now, we talked about the setup a little bit ago. That was, interestingly, quite a bit of a talking point after last night's race, because they have the Pacific region. We're running the Atlantic region here for the majors, because they have so many drivers, they have to split them up. And apparently one of the things that happened in the Atlantic race, Joey, is some of the drivers went a bit too high on the tire pressures, and they got more green flag racing than they expected, and wound up running out of tire during the race. Not something you talk about a lot, but can happen in dirt racing. So I'm wondering who took note of that and tried to make some tweaks to try and make the car good over the long run here.
That's very interesting. Sure, you always have to take care of your equipment, and I would say the only way that you can know if you're running your tire pressure too high is if you've got a data set, right? If you've got a sample set, and so you have to know somebody in that Pacific split that had the issue, say, hey, where did you start your tire pressures? Make sure that I'm nowhere near that. Maybe, I don't know. That's a tough one, Joe, because running out, I assume it's right rear tire that they're running out of, and I wouldn't expect that to happen in a 100-lap race, but you always got to be careful with those setups.
So Christian Challoner, who is ever the setup guru, for those that don't know, he actually works for iRacing and makes the setups for a lot of the cars. So if you have one of the default setups for a track, you can thank Christian 9 times out of 10 as he develops a lot of those. So knows what he's talking about, very experienced on this. His experience was, yes, he saw that could have been a problem. He lowered the pressures on that right rear a little bit, but he didn't on the front right. And so the front right went away, and he described it as having the steering of an NHRA Top Fuel dragster by the end.
and that makes sense. I'm going to try to explain it as best as possible, is that when you have too much tire pressure, the balloon gets too inflated and it just doesn't provide the grip. When you have less and less tire pressure, the balloon, it kind of flops around, but that provides more tire to actually touch the ground. That's the easiest way to kind of cartoonishly think about tire pressures.
Now, one thing we'll need to correct ourselves on is we also got information about this feature. Caution laps will count in this feature. So if we get a lot of yellows, the race could end under caution, and they will suck up laps. And I think that's done partially because it is a 100-lap race. So it'll take a while if we have none of the laps count. It looks like, I think the warm-up has wrapped, which means it is time for our feature grid for the World 100. Sam Lawson going to be starting it on pole. He's only known the top spot so far this evening, as Cody Buck will start next to him on the outside. It is Doug Betts who starts in P3 with Thomas Freitas in the 4th position. After that, it is Jeff Schmeier in P5. From there, it is Jesper Eriksson in the 6th spot. Then you've got Edward Shelley starting in 7th. On the next row, it's going to be Drew Prohl with Travis Henderson in 9th. And then Dennis Crosby rounds out your top 10.
In 11th, we have Christopher Hibbs in the number 25 car. Along next to him is Lynn Kinchlow in 12th. Then in 13th is Melvin Atkinson. Adam Gowdy driving the number 9 in 14th. Oscar Fredrickson lined up in 15th with Daniel Homer next to him in 16th, driving that 987. Jason Wallet starting 17th. Daniel Blomqvist in 18th. Garen Batten snuck his way into the feature and will start in 19th. Ray Partridge in 20th. And then the final car across the page, the number 64 of Rob Courtney, will start in 21st position.
Okay, they're taking off. I don't see fireworks. So I think maybe we don't. Maybe it is just at the end of the race this time. It used to be an iRacing jump scare because they have the flamethrowers on the main straight, and if you're gridded up, the first time a lot of people tried dirt racing, suddenly this huge noise came from the right-hand side and scared everybody.
There's the shot of pretty much where it'll come out. It's called Victory Lane, and they have all these pyrotechnics that are set up on the, call it the wall right there, that shoot straight up. If you got some s'mores or some hot dogs, that's the place where you want to stand.
Indeed. So already on the second pace lap, we're going to get started on this one quickly. Unfortunately, I don't have the line memorized of the famous dirt commentator, or the 4 wide, whatever, all those things. So I can't give you that fun, but I'll give you my own call for the start here, because Shane Lawson is getting ready to be released. The World 100 just about to be underway. Our lone dirt round for the season on the oval side, and the green flag is out. Lawson with a huge jump over the field. There's the pyrotechnics as we fly down into 1 and 2.
I believe it's the 252 that is getting shuffled back. That's Thomas Freitas in the black and green cars. Samuel Lawson escapes from the front of the field. Already 3/4 of a second he's put on second place in 1 lap.
Green flag first lap. That's what we like to see. Good start on this one. Lawson definitely running away a bit. Battle side by side for second place. Buck down on the bottom. You've got Eriksson trying to fight him as he carries the momentum on the high side. Remember, this is a pretty dry track compared to earlier on.
I'm really surprised to see the front group running way down low at the bottom. I think they're just following the leader, as now the 37 of Eriksson is looking down to the inside. He's going to take away second from Cody Buck, so move that 37 up 1.
You know what looks like is happening here is it's kind of doing the reverse. It started out with the berm going up, but now that berm is getting slicked up and rubbered in, everybody's going to have to try and migrate downwards to follow until the whole thing is slicked up.
I also just wonder if we're seeing a little bit of mind games now. Racing drivers, they're very smart, but they can be simple-minded. If there's a car in front that's leading the race on the bottom, well, that must be the fast way, right, Joe?
You're the race car driver here, so you're the one that just described yourself as simple-minded, not me.
Hey, I'm up in the booth now.
Yeah, this is Travis Henderson's view, and this gives you a good idea of how hectic these feature races is in dirt racing.
It is very, very busy, and just look at the bodies of the car. They may look a little silly if you're used to road racing or open wheelers, but yeah, they're definitely shifted on the car to help with the aerodynamics as they slide around. They're pretty much for cosmetic and aesthetic purposes only.
Very much so, yeah. But you can see how low slung they are as well. These late models definitely have a very specific geometry to them. As Lawson is now second place, he's lost the lead to Ericsson. When did this happen?
This must have just happened a couple laps ago. Remember that white and green of Ericsson passed for second place, and now a run coming from Lawson on the inside. He's going to retake the lead, force that white and green 37 up to the middle of the racetrack. But now the over-unders, I think the games are starting to begin.
Yeah, it looked like Lawson was trying the bottom side a little bit to see what works, and it is working a little better, but his midline allowed Ericsson to sneak through at least briefly. Cody Buck also approaching the back of them, along with the likes of Atkinson staying in the mix. It is pretty nose to tail at the front of the field. And you know, we talked about if this goes green flag racing, which it has so far, who is holding on to their stuff as well for the end of the race?
That's tough to tell who's driving it the hardest. I think that if I go by the data, the 959 sitting in fourth place is definitely driving it the hardest. He's already worked his way up 9 positions. He's going to make it 10 positions as he's going to overtake for third place down on the low side of the racetrack. So that 959 of Melvin Atkinson has found some speed.
Absolutely has. And man, this has been some great racing as everybody represented well so far without a single yellow. 13 laps in. Doug Betts there also working that bottom side just behind Atkinson. Somebody smacking the wall just along the front stretch, using up every bit of track they can.
We're really starting to see some cars move around. Atkinson is now under pressure up there. I believe that's Cody Buck in the 29 car that's trying to slide underneath. And remember, still got Ericsson sitting in second place, and that's actually the car that I've got my eye on. He's no longer running the bottom of the racetrack. He's moved it up, especially in turns 1 and 2, to right in the middle.
Yeah, down lower to the bottom here on 3 and 4 as we watch from Jeff Schmeier's view. This is all the way to the bottom for Jeff, so the 30 car seems to like the bottom side, at least for now, the one of Edward Shelley just sliding in front of him. And you can definitely see, yeah, I mean, with this many more cars, I'm seeing more rubber. Oh, start to go down. That was Travis Henderson hard in the wall.
It's one of the things, if you're going to run the high side, you just have to be careful of that wall. We've seen it end the nights of a few competitors, and it bit Travis Henderson out this time.
And Travis, I guess it was a little too damaged as it winds up sideways on the backstretch. He was definitely limping afterwards, but I think the car just, yeah, he couldn't carry it on.
I think we're going to get a replay of exactly what happened at the initial start here, and it was that 254. Look at all the pyrotechnics going off, but what amazed me is, look at that hole shot the leader got, even just on half a lap right there.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing is he took off very quickly. It looked like he wanted to be away as fast as he could, but then he got caught up quite fast, which is what made me think, you know, who's trying to hold on to their rubber just so that they have something for the end of this race, especially if we do get more cautions late in the race. That's a problem if you maybe were a little bit too much of a rabbit or a hare at the start.
I think the one caveat, though, is we're getting ready to go back green flag racing here, Joe, is if you're running the bottom or the top, which has more tire wear?
That's a good question. I would think the bottom, because it's, a shallower line. You're putting more steering angle into it to try and get the car to grip up. But then maybe if it's got less rubber on it, maybe you're tearing the tires up a little bit less. Who knows? We'll have to watch and see.
I think you need to hit up your buddy Christian Challoner and ask.
I'm not sure if he's awake right now. He holds very strange hours for being from the UK. So I could try to poke him, but I can't make guarantees that I'll get any info on this one, as we are side by side and ready to go. And the green flag is out. Time to go racing once again, starting lap 21 here. Lawson gonna once again get a decent jump. Ericsson way up to the outside. That's going to carry the speed well. And look at the Hornet's Nest behind, fighting for P3.
I loved seeing that on the restart. We're going to see if the 37 stays to the top side. It is Cody Buck in that third place that's kind of clear in that angry little group. So it's up to Doug Belts and Melvin Atkinson that are now side by side. And our leaders definitely starting to string out single file.
Well, Ericsson passed him. In fact, he easily went around the outside this time. Lawson, we were on board when he made that overtake. We get another quick caution, and Rob Courtney is the victim this time, out of turn 4, facing sideways.
Remember, Rob did such a good job in that final LCQ to hold off a couple cars, advance his way in here, and unfortunately brings out a yellow flag running currently in 19th place.
You had a little help on that one, which we haven't seen a whole lot of, and that's honestly a good thing. But this is, I want to say, one of the first times we've had a multi-car caution come out, or at least caused by two cars getting together. So here's Courtney. Watch Oscar Fredrickson behind him. There's a little bit of a help once and twice, and that was enough. Ooh, although I think he got his recompense there a little bit as he sent that car around.
Sometimes you got to be careful when you give a little bit of a tap, but I can say that Fredrickson is still rolling around out there, and Rob Courtney has come down, taken that spare car, and is also back out on the racetrack. So even though they had that little bit of a spin and incident, both of them are still running. You got to love to see it.
Now, our paved oval fans have got to be wondering about, the situation out there for the cars that lose laps. And the problem is, here on the dirt side, they don't do lucky dogs. You don't get waved around. So you got to earn that back the hard way, which is going to be very difficult. And then also, there's no green-white checkers at the end either. So this is very different rules than what our NASCAR fans might be used to.
And I think when we talk about the major specifically, if we're just talking about one race, yeah, you might see the guy drop out, but the points are so important here. Going so early on, we don't know if there's going to be wrecks. We don't know if a car is going to drop out. So, yeah, if you have a little incident early on, keep on chugging. You can potentially pick up more points from others' misfortune.
Yeah, you think of guys like Jeff Schmeier leading the points, Jesper Ericsson, who's second as the green flag comes back out. If they get in trouble, they want to keep at it and get as many points as they can. As now to the high side, it's going to be Lawson seen if he could do it up riding the rim. In fact, it seems like that gives a good shot, because now multiple times we've seen momentum off the corner on the high side.
I think it's all based on the restart. You don't have the speed going into turns 1 and 2, so you can really kind of have that cautious entry into one, which provides you the drive off at turn number 2. We've seen both Ericsson and now Lawson capitalize on it.
Watch out for Doug Betts. He is coming on like a freight train up there. He is using that high side all the way up to the berm, and it's working well. He's looking for P3 at this stage. Just behind him, Cody Buck in a bit of a fight too. Buck on the bottom side. Can't quite find the momentum. He cuts off the likes of Atkinson down, who tried to go even lower.
Yeah, Atkinson threw a big-time charge there into turn 3 and 4. Thankfully, didn't slide up the racetrack too much, but this is more what I was expecting to see out of dirt track racing. Look at all of the grooves, all of the lines being used from up top, in the middle, and even down low.
Still a fight for P2. Jesper Ericsson, Betts, and Buck all close together. We watch from Schmeier, our current points leader, who's got a real view up ahead. He's been representing well for himself because I don't believe Jeff is quite as regular here on the dirt side, but a mid-pack finish in the main split will definitely give him a handy few points.
It's tough when you're kind of stuck in the middle of the pack like that, too. You got all the dirt being thrown up. We heard us talking about the visor tear-off. You better have that button programmed and get into some clean air. Hopefully make a couple of these slide jobs, get up a couple positions, and start making your way towards the front.
My favorite story on the tear-off button is there was a VR user on the forums that posted he had made himself a button that had been attached to his VR headset so that it was like the real thing, and he had to reach up to his head to pull the tear off.
The only thing that would make it better is if he's got googly eyes on that VR headset as well.
Googly eyes with dirt and dust all over them. But Edward Shelley right now on the bottom side a little bit, and certainly in quite a bit of the heat of the battle. The cars all around still working many different lines to try and decide where is best, who's got the grip on this one. You can see the fight as well for P2 as Cody Buck has managed to take that away from Ericsson and Thomas Freitas. We haven't talked about him a lot. He's been a bit of a quiet runner, but he's still in the top 5.
Cody Buck threw the first official slider that I saw work on Jesper Eriksson there just a couple laps ago, took away that second place, and ever since that last lap, 16.4, compare that to our leader, 16.7, so maybe this 29 car of Cody Buck has got a little bit of speed, and now that he's clear of the rest of the pack, can go hunt down the leader.
Yeah, second on the qualifying, so he started from the top spot in Heat 2. We didn't get a sense because of that of how he and Sam compare over race pace, and it does look like he's got a pretty hot car tonight. He's been keeping tabs of that 254, not letting him run away.
Well, and if we look at that top 3, look at what's happened to that number 37 ever since Cody Buck went past him. He has completely shifted his line. I love watching dirt racing because when one car goes by, the other drivers start thinking, well, hey, I have to adapt and find the speed because I don't have it.
Watching Freitas for a bit, who is having to fend off for that P5. Atkinson on the bottom side of Christopher Hibbs now. Hibbs tries to get the shot off the corner. He's given space, but I think he brushed the wall a little.
And starting to get a little bit more action. Edward Shelley trying to poke his nose into the battle as well as looks like Hibbs on that top side using the cushions, going to carry the momentum as Atkinson actually gets a little bit out of shape.
Love watching the steering wheel on Hibbs. And this is a good sign. Again, what I mentioned earlier, Joey, about I've heard a lot of racers say you don't want the car to be slideways. Look at how little steering input he has most of the time.
And he got very close to the wall there in 3 and 4. And I agree with you is that he's one of these drivers using the cushion all the way up top, not using a ton of yaw angle. It's using the track versus using the car.
NASCAR College Series driver Jason Wallet running the bottom side as he tries to battle Jeff Schmeier, but Schmeier's quicker running the rim, at least for this time. Closing in on the halfway mark of this race. It's going by fast.
I gotta say, also, our lead is starting to tighten up. I think that Cody Buck is actually gonna make a slide job down to the inside of turn 1. Gets in front of Samuel Lawson, but the over-under carries the momentum for our leader. He's able to defend and hang on for another lap.
Are we starting to see the trading? Are they going to swap back and forth? Or is that just exploratory? Is he seeing what's possible up there? It worked for about half a corner, and now he's back to second.
I think that Cody is just running that little bit higher, using that cushion that little bit more, maybe a little bit more confidence, and there you see him really start to diamond down off of turn 4. He's going to try to throw another slider down to the inside, but he doesn't fully commit. Backs out at apex and is going to follow along once again.
Yeah, that's one of those things that's the dirt racing etiquette. You can throw a slider, but if you just slide through and slam into the side of your rival, that's no good, and you're gonna raise some tempers if you do that move.
I think more than tempers. How many times in real life do we see, yellow flag on the racetrack? I believe maybe Daniel Blomqvist in the 988 is having problems, as well as Rob Courtney in the 64. But what I was going to say is, a lot of times these dirt racers, they take kind of big offense and their egos get hurt. They use their cars quite a bit too.
Yeah, it's not that they raise their tempers, it's they raise their knuckles. And yeah, I think we had a car actually go over this time. Rob Courtney involved in it, and I think Blomqvist maybe came in a little late. We'll see when we get the replay up here and get a better view of things. But Daniel definitely going to need the spare car if he chooses to come back out, but he couldn't even drive it back into pit lane.
Yeah, unfortunate, and I think that's actually the second incident that he's had. He's already a handful of laps down, so unfortunate for that driver. Definitely, I'm sure we'll get a replay of exactly what happened, but we're just clicking over halfway as everything is starting to settle into a rhythm.
So here is Daniel. So this should be coming down the back stretch now. And this was in 4, so sends it up into the high side, and yeah, car was facing the wrong way, and these noses can act as a bit of a scoop, unfortunately, and that just sent him right into the fencing, and over she goes.
And honestly, really unfortunate for Blomqvist, because I thought that maybe since he was several laps down that was the cause, but it was actually Rob Courtney that had spun, and then Blomqvist just couldn't avoid the incident. So unfortunate for both of the drivers, for sure.
Halfway done now at this stage, so we're getting truly into this one. As are we double file? Are we going back racing this lap? I
believe so.
Yeah. All right. So, man, that even the cautions are going by so fast out here. It's amazing. As the green flag comes out. This time, though, Buck might not have it all his own way. Here comes Doug Betts down to the bottom to see if he can make it a fight, but no grip on the low side on the restart. Instead, it's Jesper Eriksson who's going to fight him for third.
And Lawson learned. He immediately went to the top side and 1 and 2 on that restart so he could carry the momentum, defend off of that high line momentum move. So it is Lawson and Buck running 1 and 2 and already starting to stretch it out as Betts and Eriksson are arguing over third. Oh, more contact back there with Wallet.
Yeah, somebody up into the wall, and that is indeed Jason Wallet, who you called, that is just kind of scraping it, trying to keep from getting in anybody's way. But that's, and the car looks like it doesn't have steering as he unfortunately has to ride it once again. I'm not sure if he'll be able to bring that back.
And this is such a tough situation. We've seen this bring out the yellow flag so much, but what else can Jason Wallet do? He wants to collect points. He wants to get into pit lane. He wants to get a new car. Let's see how he's able to handle this situation.
Keeping it low. Can he bring it in? He's doing his best. No. Oh, almost had it. Almost had it. But another caution coming along. And Wallet didn't sound too terribly happy about what had happened. I didn't see what put him in the wall, if it was his own mistake or if somebody kind of helped him up there.
I didn't see exactly. I'm going to go back and take a look at it myself. He was in a big pack and he was all the way up top. And typically when you're 2 or 3 wide, as we get a GSRC replay right here, this is Drew Prohl. I wonder if there was a little bit of contact between multiple cars that sent him up into the wall.
Yeah, when we're not watching the car that caused the caution, you kind of suspect that that's the case. He's a ways behind. And Prohl also kind of did the exact same thing.
Yeah, that was a separate incident, and I'm looking at the Wallet incident. I can't really say why he would be angry at anybody. He tried to squeeze 3 wide all the way up at the top. He did not get hit into the wall. In fact, he kind of hit the wall himself. It was just a bad position to be in, unfortunately.
Maybe I misheard on the radio. Thought I heard him get on and be a little bit annoyed about something. Maybe just was letting people know he was kind of into the wall and couldn't do anything about it. He's 3 wide. Oh. Maybe he thought he got hit and wasn't actually touched.
I guarantee you, yes. I guarantee you that he is frustrated that he is in the wall. I just look at it from a race control perspective and from a chopper view. It's always tough when you try to squeeze in 3 wide on the outside.
And he hasn't had time to go and review that, so he might not know exactly what happened. That's one of the things why I always waited until after I could get out of the car to mic up on the radio.
Never. You always show the emotions first. That's the best way to do it, Joe.
All right, let's see if the emotions run wild here as the green flag comes back out once again. Lawson has been our leader for much of it, but he has not been our leader for the entirety of it. Cody Buck trying to see if he can take this one away from the 254. Things get tight in behind them. Did you see that between Ericsson and I think that was Hibbs nearly coming together?
I think it was Doug Betts that caused the stack up between Ericsson and Hibbs. You're right, and now Hibbs is on the low side of the racetrack here in this black and green 25. Just don't think he's going to be able to capitalize on the momentum. He's got to get up to the high side before he gets taken advantage of. Dennis Crosby's waiting right there.
Buck's just brushed against the outside wall a little bit. He's pushing the limit of what that high line can do. He's got to be careful that he doesn't start to lose touch, hitting it too often and too hard. Christopher Hibbs down on the bottom side, definitely losing position. Someone going slow at the bottom. That is Ray Partridge.
Yeah, and I don't know what happened. Still green flag on the racetrack, but Ray was on the lead lap, running inside, I believe, inside the top 10. So definitely problems with that number 8 as Samuel Lawson is continuing to try to run away.
He's parked at the entry. Somehow he hasn't brought out the yellow flag. I think he's waiting for the cars to go by, hoping that he'll be far enough away from any cars, and he's done it. Ray Partridge doing a great job. And Wallet, is he in the wall again?
Unfortunately, yes, and it looks like it almost is the exact same thing in the exact same part of the racetrack, unfortunately. Just got into the wall, and now he's really having to suffer. We've got a yellow flag officially on the racetrack.
That was from Jason having to park it. He tried to find a little entry space that they've got kind of in the entry to 3. So here is Ray Partridge. Now, we haven't seen what caused his. Cars close to him, but I didn't see any contact. I think he just kind of flew too close to the sun.
It's just, when you hit that right rear into the wall, everybody knows it wants to bring the right front over, and weight transfer. It's just incredibly important in how you drive every single corner in dirt racing, and oftentimes you hit that wall, it's not going to set up the corner, and you're going to hit the wall even harder.
So, real quick, since it looks like we've at least got a pace lap, for our viewers that might not understand, what is the big differences between racing on pavement and then having to hop over into these dirt cars? That we're seeing some of these very good drivers make what look like sort of silly mistakes.
I think the best way to describe it is it's like driving on snow, right? If you're used to driving on pavement, you turn the steering wheel and the front end turns, right? It responds to you, it does exactly what you want it to. Well, on dirt, you turn the front end and the front tires don't always turn. And if they do, they'll turn for a little bit, but that they don't hold that corner load and they'll just start to understeer. So what the drivers do on dirt is they use the weight transfer and actually kind of flick the car into a corner, kind of like what you would see out of a rally car, and they'll get that slide going, and you have to hold that slide in order to get the car to physically turn, just like Lightning McQueen learned how to do. Sometimes you got to turn right to go left.
There's that phrase. Well, so far, the left-hand turns have been pretty fast for Lawson because we're getting ready to restart. As we watch from on board, looking at that Nerf bar and at the field that wants to catch him, the green flag is out. This time, Cody gets a little bit of a better start, I think. Behind him, side by side between Ericsson and Betts. Ericsson, though, with a huge shot off a 2.
Nice, using that cushion. We've seen it used a lot on the restarts, and now Ericsson's going to use it off of 3 and 4. He's going to try to take away second from Cody Buck, but Cody sends it in way deep in 1. Slides up, there's a little bit of contact between the 2, and now Fredrickson is going to officially take over the place.
Yeah, there's that slide job gone wrong. Just got in front of Ericsson, but he plows his way through, and he manages it well. Buck will slot back into 3rd behind them. And Ericsson, he looks fast right now. Look at how quickly he gets on top of Lawson.
Really utilizing that cushion up top, but now our leader decides to drive up there himself and has a nice run coming off of 3 and 4. Separates himself to a little bit of a stiff arm distance between himself and the rest. Look at how busy it is a little bit further back.
Watching from Schmeier's perspective, he's managed to make his way into 6th position. That's still down 1 from where he started, but we saw him farther back in the field, so this is a good recovery from him. And Lawson's almost instant reaction to that car getting close. Oh, there was a brush we didn't see from Ericsson on the exit of 2. But this tells me that, again, I think Sam is just, he's pacing himself.
I agree. I think he's very smart, and he kind of drives where he needs to on the racetrack to force his competitors to kind of play his game. So you're right. I think the 254 is being very smart and setting the pace up front. The one car that I do want to mention is in screen right here, the number 61 of Garen Batten. Remember, he had such a terrible heat where he didn't advance. He had to go to the LCQ. He barely got in on the LCQ. Well, he's running here in 7th place.
That was Hibbs on the high side, who had a big snap. Thankfully, he caught the car without slapping into the outside wall like so many have done already. Oscar Fredriksson with those Swedish colors represented on the car, the 955, trying to see if he can get back up there.
Pacing that car that I was just talking about of Garen Batten, Jeff Schmeier, who we were riding on board with not too long ago, directly in front of him. And this is kind of the train that is dirt track racing. You got to use that cushion. You got to get faster than the car in front in order to get sucked up and then potentially open that door for the slider.
And look at how different it appears now, the racing, compared to, say, 50 laps ago, where they were spreading out. It is high-line dominant. Everybody is on the cushion.
And just look at it, right? You can see the difference. The blue groove is all the way from the top of the racetrack all the way down low where the infield tractor tires would be if there was no wall. So it has adapted, and so have the drivers.
Saw a couple down in 3 and 4 that were trying that bottom line, but didn't seem to work out. Now they immediately are back up to the top this time around. Eventually, someone's going to find a little bit of a trick out there, because you can't hold up on that top side forever. The 37 hard into the outside wall, and he's collected.
Yeah, I think Doug Betts got into the back of him, and now it causes a huge stack-up incident in turn 4. We got multiple cars turned around. Still no yellow flag. Now we've got the yellow out. I think that's 4 or maybe even 5
still
cars.
Going. It's still going. Oh, my goodness.
Talladega.
I was about to say, it's the big one on dirt. And that all began with, I think Doug Betts got a little bit out of shape. No, it was Ericsson, Jasper Ericsson up on the top. He was slow in 3 and 4. That checked up a couple cars into each other. And with them spread across the track, drivers just did not expect there to be a blockage in turn 4.
Yep. You're going to see right here the 3 runs over the 37. The 37 was running in 2nd place, and then it's just a chain reaction. Let's see how many more start to pile in here. Yeah, it still continued up the racetrack. I don't understand why these guys are piling in right here. The yellow flag's been out for a while, but hey, you know what? Race car drivers are going to do their thing.
Poor Lynn Kinchlow was, I think, one of the very last to come into it. I think he had a bit of an excuse because he was running the bottom line, and there is that wall right there. So he was a bit blind, and then suddenly there was literally 4 and 5 cars that were perpendicular to the track in front of him.
I think what the internet term is, I think it's called ARCA brakes.
Yes, ARCA brakes. There's definitely a bit of a more rude term I can think. A cluster along with something else that has been described for that. We've now had, I mean, because of that incident, it looks like only 7 cars that have not visited pit lane in a race where you don't have pit stops.
Honestly, it's been a fantastic race, Joe. Yes, we've had a couple little incidents, but I mean, talk about awesome racing. We've had a few little contact points, but up front, it has been sliders, over-unders, and good racing.
Yeah, no, I think this has been an impressive run. We've had far worse races here in the majors on dirt, and they've done a fantastic job prepping them as the green flag is once again out, and we've had plenty of side-by-side action. Slow car on the bottom, I think, just trying to let them go. That appears to be the 37 as Ericsson. Oh, and we got a caution. Ray Partridge, I see, facing the wrong way on the backstretch.
I think I see Fredriksson as well. No, he's in pit lane. Maybe Travis Henderson involved in this one as well. But this happened very quickly, and I will say it was a little bit odd how the 37 got back out there on the racetrack. It's so tough because he was running up front the whole time, and Now he merges back out onto the racetrack with all of his buddies that he's been racing with, but he's the car a lap down.
Yeah, I think this was because of the 8 that brought it out officially. Because of all of what's been going on, the other thing is not just drivers having been in pit lane. We only have 8 cars on the lead lap now. And this plays to what we had mentioned earlier, that if you do get in trouble, if you do wind up multiple laps down, stay out there if your car is good enough, because you still might have a shot at getting here, it looks like, potentially a top 10.
Absolutely. And points are so crucial in the major series. You just got to keep at it throughout the entire season. This is going to be the replay, so watch this blue and green number 8 car of Ray Partridge. This is exactly what happens. He's down low here in 1 and 2. Really slippery. Gets collected by Kinchlow in the 44 and just kind of gets spun around, but I can't really 100% put that on Kinchlow because Partridge is way out of shape, way out of the gas, and just off speed, and unfortunately Kinchlow had already committed to the corner, so just a little bit of a stack up for sure.
Yeah, well, you know, you made that comparison to snow, and kind of in the same way in dirt, you don't stop on a dime. So once momentum is going a direction, it's hard to change that direction. And that's why we're seeing cars come in from so far away. It's so hard to avoid sometimes when they're stopped in front of you. Let's go racing once again with 12 laps to go once they cross the line. Green flag is out. It's coming down to it. We're starting to see quite a few cautions. Is this the way the finish is going to look like? Are they going to be able to keep this one green? Buck not as able to challenge Lawson like we've seen in the past.
And Freitas is into the wall in 3 and 4. That's going to cause a stack up. That was the 3rd place car. Now we've got multiple cars turned around. That's the 61 of Garen Batten, another car getting involved as it all kind of comes down the front straightaway. But it all started, I believe it was that 3rd place car that got into the wall, and then everybody else couldn't avoid that. We've seen that a few times now.
I want to give some credit to Garrett Batten, because he drove the car backwards almost through the entirety of turn 4 because he was trying to keep at least some semblance of pace with the field, and he could see them coming. So he was thinking, okay, instead of being a stopped object in the middle of the track, I'm at least going to keep a consistent line here and give them a chance to react to me. But that was impressive.
Yeah, you know, I think, who was it, Ricky Bobby? Kind of finished a race in reverse, so maybe he's just channeling his inner Hollywood.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's watch this. He's going to get kind of tangled up in the car hitting the wall in front of him, like you said. Everybody checks up. He gets spun, and then watch this.
That's a full Vettel. Remember when Sebastian Vettel did that at Sao Paulo after getting spun around, and he saw all the cars and just continued the momentum, and that's exactly what Garen Batten did. And because of that, there was no heavy contact on the 61. He's going to restart 4th.
Wow, that is amazing. So he's got a good shot at this one. We're down to 6 cars left on the lead lap now, and I think we are already double file, it looks like. Going to restart now with 8 laps to go. Eventually, with I believe about 4 or 5 laps left, it will be ending under caution if they get a yellow anywhere in there. So cross your fingers, cross your toes and eyes that we manage to stay racing, as Lawson will get the green once again. Cody Buck is a little bit challenged by Crosby down on the bottom side, as behind them Garen Batten is starting to lose touch a little bit, but Lawson has put the foot down. He's trying to run away and into the wall. Crosby absolutely just smashes the barrier.
Yeah, and that's a really unfortunate way to throw away a top 3 finish with less than 10 laps to go. He is not going to recover from that. Samuel Lawson and Cody Buck have escaped from the field by a full second.
Well, if he can limp it around, he might only go a lap or 2 down and still have himself a top 8 finish on that one. In fact, speaking of which, this is Gowdy, as there is the yellow. This is going to be tight on where we restart on this one. And I don't see who started this.
No, maybe the number 1 car of Edward Shelley. I see him dropping down the order currently. That might have indicated that he had an incident. I also see the 22 of Dennis Crosby at 0 miles an hour. So I wonder if one of those cars got together. But to your point, Joe, with the laps left, I think that we'll get a green flag, but it's just how many laps of green flag?
I think you're right on Crosby. I think his damage to the right-hand side of the car, like so many have found, took away the steering, and all he could do is just kind of helplessly slither into the concrete on the entry into turn 3. So, okay, let's take a look at things. And here is Crosby. So, this is the initial one. This is strange, though. I mean, maybe just thought that there was going to be more grip than there was, because that car that was hashtag send it in a half.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that either. When you pointed that out, I mean, I watched it live, and there was no way that car was going to make the corner. But he definitely threw it in there. He committed to it, and my only guess is that with only a handful of laps remaining, he was just trying to commit to the entry of the corner and just clearly overdid it.
I think this is going to be an unofficial green-white checkers. Now, unfortunately, because they are restarting with 2 to go, if we get a yellow, it will mean that this race will end under caution. If they get to the white flag and cross the start-finish line, the race is official. It will not go to yellow. So let's see if they can hold out for 1 lap so that we can finish this one under green. Will Cody try and take this one away from Lawson? Is he going to send it down with a slider into 1 or 3? Here goes the pace truck. It's in. Lawson on the pedal. Green flag is out. He gets the launch he needs over Cody. 2 laps to go here at the end of the race. We take the green flag. Cody tries to catch back up to him. Oh, but he gets a little bit loose coming off of 2. He needs to be so much closer if he wants to try and make that attack to the white flag. Will we stay green? Yes, we will. We're going green to the finish on this one. The 254 has a good enough gap of about 3 car lengths over the 29. He has been dominating this race. He has been controlling it. Cody sends the slider, but he's not there. Sam Lawson, gonna be your winner of the World 100.
Look at the busyness, the chaos as they all finish the race. What a finish. The fireworks going off at Eldora. Sam Lawson definitely was in control the entire time, claimed the checkered flag. Good race from Cody Buck there at the end to definitely make it close.
Lawson going to bring it down to victory lane on this one. Love getting to see the pyrotechnics and celebration of the 254 getting a win. Hailing from Club Mid-South, I'm sure he knows his dirt racing as he brings it onto the stand. Look at that. He knows what to do and where it is to get to victory lane. I believe that's going to take us to our results from this one. It was a little messy at the end, but we still got great racing, and I'd say it's a much improved dirt race for the majors from past years. As Lawson takes victory and Cody Buck will finish in second. Behind him, Garen Batten will be P3, and Daniel Holmer will finish 4th. Last driver on the lead lap was Melvin Atkinson in 5th. Then you get to Lynn Kinchlow, first car lap down in P6, as Gowdy will come home in 7th and Jeff Schmeier in 8th. Then it's Doug Betts 9th, and Jesper Eriksson, Joey, will round out our top 10.
Yeah, and then across the page in 11th, we have Dennis Crosby here a few laps down. Then Christopher Hibbs actually had a great showing today, but unfortunately ended up 4 laps down. Ray Partridge in 13th, Edward Shelley 14th, Drew Pearl 15th, Thomas Freitas back here in 16th, Oscar Fredrickson 17th, Travis Henderson 18th, and then unfortunately comes a lot of these cars that had troubles throughout the day. Jason Wallet 19th, Rob Courtney 20th, and then Daniel Blomqvist is going to round out the 21-car field, albeit 58 laps down.
Well, they get a lot of niche racing styles in this series, but this one definitely is very niche, and drivers who were very good at it stood above the rest. Absolutely. One who is quite good in spite of a late race incident was Garen Batten. I believe we've caught up with our 3rd place finisher, and I definitely want to pick his brain on how he managed to recover from that, because Garen, at one point we were extolling your skill running backwards through turn 4 to avoid getting hit, and I wouldn't have thought you'd been able to recover much from that, but you wound up in 3rd. How did you keep your lead lap on that one?
Yeah, I was sort of watching all the cars coming straight at me and trying to, left a bit, right a bit, straighten her up, really, it was just a bit of luck, and there was a bit of contact, but I suppose it was all in the right places for these cars, because as we know, some bits of them are super fragile and some bits of them are a bit, more robust. So yeah, it was lucky, and I don't know what happened with the, who got X's and whatever else, but it put me back up to the front for the restart, and which I was quite happy about. But I made that really, really hard for myself, starting at the front of my heat, or on the front row anyway of my heat, and then just making a little mistake, starting at the very back of a last chance quali, starting essentially at the back of this. It's been a long night.
Yeah, and we talked about that a lot over the course of the broadcast, that you had to make that recovery. What kind of pressure do you feel when that happens, especially since it seems like you do have a fair bit of confidence of the speed that you have?
Well, I don't know about the speed that I've got. I seem to have quite a bit of luck on ovals as far as avoiding accidents goes and whatever. But I mean, fortunately, we've got some guys in our team who I need to mention: Brian Scribner and Justin Morton and Stu Welder in particular, that ran Pacific, and they were able to give us lots of tips on how to manage the tyre, what lines to run early and late, and that sort of stuff. So shout out to those guys for the intel that they gave us coming in, because it meant that I sort of had a bit of a plan. Make a few spots early, just settle into a rhythm, and then run the inside line as much as I could, because that was going to save the tyre a bit more, less on the throttle, and then just see where we ended up. So that was the plan, and kind of worked.
Now, our folks that don't follow dirt racing might be surprised to find out that Australia and New Zealand have a big dirt racing contingent of their own. Are you being the lone Aussie in this race? Did you come in with a lot of history in the dirt side of motorsports?
My history with dirt is anything that's happened in the majors, and that's pretty much it. I'm a sports car guy, so this is way out of my comfort zone. I don't just got some sort of rhythm going here today, and look, to be fair, I think there's vast majority of this field is road racing guys. So I think everyone, or most of us, were here in the same boat. So we all just did the best job that we could, and fumbled around, and now we all need to go and have a shower.
Well, you fumbled your way into a podium, and congratulations.
Thanks very much, guys.
That was Garen Batten, who's humble about that one, Joey, saying that, didn't think that he had that much speed, that he kind of lucked into it. But, I've heard people say in racing, you make your own luck, and I'd say he did a pretty good job of that.
I think that he was definitely one of the biggest stories throughout the night, because I highlighted it a few times. He fell back in that heat, made his way barely through that LCQ, and then finds himself on the podium out here. We know that Garen Batten is always towards the front in the major series, but it just goes to show you, keep on chugging, keep on swimming like Dory, and good things can happen.
Well, sadly, we don't seem to have Sam Lawson or Cody Buck joining us, so let's close this one out. And once again, a mention of both our sponsor, Majors Garage. We got a link in the description below for that, as well as for Rise Above the Disorder. Make sure and check them out, see how you can help contribute to that cause. Also, thanks to the team today, Joey, Daniel, and Dougie. And make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. But don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Next time out, we're going to actually go back to oval racing again, but this time it's on pavement. Richmond for the Rock and Roll 400. We'll see our NASCAR stock cars, the Gen 4s, going to be taking to the track on that one. Sunday, August 25th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. After a long break, we are back with 2 races in 1 month for the majors. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here. And until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.
Wow.